Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be taking you to a top secret garden, one that's not normally open to the public, and it's not down here on the ground level. To find it, well, we need to go up. Wow, I feel like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, like I've just come up through the glass elevator. Just look at this. This is incredible. I'm here at this development in Battersea Power Station. I'm 16 floors up, and up here there are 29,000 square feet of communal roof gardens. Now up here there are not only spectacular views of Battersea Power Station, but this roof garden is split up into multiple different zones. This is incredible. One of the first things you see when you get here is this communal bench. I love the fact that it's got these layers in it, because when you're at the top, you have an unparalleled view of the city. Health and safety went out the window because I have to show you guys this view. Just look at this. And it just goes to show how green London really is. And speaking of green, there are over 20,000 plants up here. Now, these roof gardens are normally closed to the general public, but for one very special weekend, that's not quite the case. To find out more, I'm going to be meeting one of the team behind London Open Gardens. Hiya.
Hi Jason, lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you. So Nathan, right now we are on this beautiful roof terrace, but we're here for a special reason. It's not just open for the normal residents, is it?
No, this is a very special one-off opportunity. Once a year, London Open Gardens opens over 100 gardens. Like this is one of the biggest residential roof gardens in London, but we open them once for everybody for London Open Gardens, which is a fantastic celebration of these secret green spaces all over the city.
Wow, so how many gardens are open during London Open Garden weekend?
So this year over 100. 7 roof gardens, there are 7 new gardens, and they go over about 8 boroughs across central London, and there are institutions and banks and rooftops and all these wonderful locked spaces. Garden Squares is where we open, so a lot of people know the kind of Notting Hill and those films and those locked garden beautiful squares. That's why we started the event 25 years ago, and this is your one opportunity to get in, all in a great cause. Obviously, places like this, only the residents of a really fantastic and very exclusive residential development can enjoy these. And similarly, the London squares are surrounded by beautiful Georgian buildings, and the residents that overlook those have a key and they can go in. So it really is that kind of democratising the space, to be fancy about it, but essentially giving everyone access for that one weekend is something that we really love to do.
And this is an annual thing as well, it's not just for this year.
Yes, Jason, we've been going 26 years and it supports the great work of London Parks and Gardens, which essentially works to protect these green spaces all the year through, whether that's from development threats or diminution of light or other threats that any of these green spaces face.
Wow, okay, so talk me through some of these gardens that are opening. What are some of the cool ones that we could get to see?
But we've got 6 or 7 other rooftop gardens. In the city, we have 25 and 30 Cannon Street that have iconic views again of St Paul's Cathedral and other similar places. We have number 10 Downing Street is of course a real thrill for us.
Really?
That's on a ballot, so it's quite limited access, as you'll understand, but it's typical of this sense of opening up places that people will enjoy but can only see once a year. About 40 of them are communal residential places, so they understandably will only open once a year to the general public, but we provide that one chance through London Open Gardens for people to come in.
And I believe there are some activities as well in some of them.
Yes, about 40 gardens have got activities for children. There are walks, talks, cycle tours as well. Yeah, everybody's very welcome. It's quite focused on actually getting everybody to enjoy these green spaces, and that means everybody of all ages. So under 12s come free.
Yeah.
And as I say, there are children's activities in a whole number of gardens. You can bring your dogs in, about 40 of them as well. There are places for refreshments in about 60 gardens that we have, about 20 sell plants as well. So there's a whole variety of activities that will keep everybody occupied and happy over the weekend.
That's it. It's pretty much a whole family affair.
It's a family affair. That's what we like. That's what we like to think.
All the way through the garden, there are little nooks and crannies like this where you can sit back and relax and enjoy the space. But to understand the space a little bit more, I'm going to be meeting one of the team who helped to design it. You right there?
Hello, how you doing? My name is Rob Charlton. I'm a landscape architect for a company called LDA Design, and we're based in London.
Now, last time I came to Battersea, it didn't look anything like this at all.
Yeah.
The scale of the redevelopment here is crazy. Can you talk us through some of that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, like you say, the scale is one of the first things that hits you. I mean, obviously it's kind of dominated by the power station itself, and you can see the pretty
iconic
towers behind you there. So really that was the focal point plan for the whole development. Has been a long time in the making, maybe 15 years or so. And so we've been working on that since the start. So working on the public realm and coordinating with the architects, etc. And over the past sort of 10, 12 years, that's been delivered in a phased way. So we started with phase 1, which was down at the riverfront with the water feature down there. Phase 2 was the power station and the riverfront park. So really important part of the scheme, kind of opening up part of the river that was inaccessible for decades.
Yeah, because we can use that river at all.
Exactly. Yeah, it was completely closed off by industry, complete no-go zone in kind of the wider context. So one of the really important things was just kind of opening up those new connections, making it accessible for people, and kind of trying to keep on some of that heritage. So obviously the building, but there's kind of references all throughout the public realm as well. Referencing the old industry, so some of the remnants down on the riverfront, the old switch gear and things like that from the power station has been repurposed.
And I think what's really striking about this development is it's not grey and boring. There's lots of green space, and we happen to be in one of them right now. So can you tell us a little bit more about this space?
So this is what's called Battersea Roof Gardens. So this is on the top of one of the buildings on Electric Boulevard, which is the new high street.
Is this a residential building?
This is residential, and the northern part just beyond the view there is the Art Hotel. It's one of the largest roof gardens in London. It comes with challenges. The amount of constraints and the kind of technical challenges on this roof were quite considerable. So huge structural transfer beams.
And so I'm guessing by the sounds of that a lot of these containers are in essence masking some of that industrial beams and...
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, within, for example, this planter here, there are sort of 900 mil high concrete transfer beams, sort of 1.5 meters wide and 15 meters long.
Wow.
So a lot of this kind of landscape is actually masking some of those kind of more functional and structural requirements. So this bench here is a vent. We've got venting popping out the side here. So it's really kind of masking, but trying to make it a kind of beautiful way to do it.
Does the venting affect the planting in any way, shape or form?
No, it doesn't. So it comes out of the side. That was one of the very first kind of design kind of challenges that we had to overcome when we got to the kind of more technical and detailed elements of the projects. But yeah, we really kind of worked hard to make the planting not be secondary to some of those other things. We really wanted it to be almost the main feature of the space. Obviously there's usable spaces, and the garden's kind of broken up into different types of space and character where you might use it in different ways, but the thing that knits it all together is the planting, which does change in character slightly as we move through. So this is a bit more open, sunny, colourful, and as you go towards the south there's kind of larger trees with a kind of ground floor kind of understory type of planting. So it all links together, but there is variation across the garden as well.
Now, when it comes to the planting, did you have to do any trial and error with this, or was it planned to be exactly like what we're seeing today?
To be honest with you, it's very close to what we envisaged at the outset. So naturalistic, colourful, very textural, changes through the seasons. They've just gone over now, but lots of bulbs coming through as well, which really give you that early spring boost. Okay. But there has been a bit of trial and error, as with any garden or landscape. So one thing that really enjoyed these conditions was the verbena. So for the first year or so, that really started to go a bit crazy and dominate. So there was a bit of a thinning out job, and
I can see, because they're not taking over today.
Yeah, there's a few popping up still, and yeah, so there's always a kind of constant monitoring and maintenance kind of element to it, where you fine tune, and you know, naturally some things work better, some don't. You might think something's missing, so you add a bit more later. So it's an ever-evolving landscape, really. But you know, in terms of the original vision, it's very close to what we imagined.
And then, what about the substrate that you're using? What are you growing in?
So it's a topsoil that's mixed with a leca, so a lightweight expanded clay aggregate, which is little clay pellets. So what they do is help to reduce the weight of the soil, because obviously we're on a roof, so loading is quite a key consideration. So they reduce the weight, they aid the drainage, and they can, you know, cling on some water in times of need as well. So it kind of does multiple roles. But in terms of the soil, it's pretty much the general topsoil. There's no kind of plants that need very specific soil conditions. They're all quite robust. You know, a lot of them are quite commonly used. So you've got the salvia, nepeta, the grasses. So there's nothing up here that really needs something very specific in terms of soil pH levels and things.
Incredible. Right, well, you did say that there's a shady woodland area over there, so I think we should go and take a look at that.
Sounds good.
Let's go. Okay, so this area is slightly different to over there. What's happening here?
So this is more of a kind of woodlandy type of area, obviously, you know, a replication of. So quite key to this area is the large trees, and the trees, the smaller birches that will kind of grow bigger in time. And just really to give a bit of a different character across the garden. This area gets a little bit tighter, the planting character changes.
I love that. So in essence, you kind of made your own little canopy up here.
Exactly, yeah. This was an area where we had a bit more depth to play with in terms of tree volumes. So, you know, you've got to take your opportunities to kind of use those when you can. So we're enabled to get enough soil volume within these planters just to create a bit of drama and a bit of height.
Are there less beams here on this side, or?
There are still beams, but the spaces in between are bigger.
Okay.
So the actual tree placement is placed around the structural constraints as well. But there is more space for planting here.
Now, the sun might be out, but it is sure as hell windy up here.
Yeah, it does get windy.
Now, I'm guessing that these trees are anchored down in some kind of way?
Yeah, so they're all anchored down with an anchoring system, so with a tensile wire, and they're fixed back down to the structural slab. So yeah, really important to keep these trees as secure as possible.
And does the wind have a wider effect on the garden at all?
It does. So one of the things that we've proposed is to have climbers up some of the railings just to kind of stop some of the wind. There are certain locations where that's not worked as well. So some of the more exposed areas and the climates just haven't really got going as well as we'd have liked. So yeah, I think, wind is probably an often overlooked challenge when it comes to planting, because it's very drying. It can damage them and just creates a bit of a kind of hostile environment. And particularly if you're in areas where you've got reduced substrate, such as on roofs, then the combination of all those things, creates a challenging environment for plants.
And how have you found is the best way to overcome that? Is it just changing and adapting the planting plan?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously there's kind of more, structural or architectural things that you might want to do, so screening and those sorts of things. But I think, you want a plant in the right place. So I think, personally, I would say that the changing the planting to suit the environment, or having something that can withstand those conditions, is probably the best way to do it. It's been really key since the start of the project that green space, contact with nature, is really critical to the development, but also the wider context in terms of climate change and biodiversity crisis and all those sorts of considerations. So it's been a really strong part of the kind of manifesto, if you like, from the start, and that will continue through to the end of the final phases.
Fantastic. And what would you say to any developers out there who don't currently include green space as part of their model? Tough one.
It's a tough one. I mean, I think it's critical. It performs multiple roles, as we discussed, for the environment, obviously, and biodiversity. But I think if you want a successful development, you've got to create a place where people want to be and spend time, the long term. And, it's proven time and time again that people want green space, people enjoy it, experiencing the seasons. Those sorts of things are going to make a successful long-term development.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for your time today, and
No worries at all.
can't wait to come back and see the rest of it.
Yeah, look forward to it.
Cheers. Thank you. Thank you. The final zone of the roof terrace is this communal space. As you can see, the flooring is different. This allows a communal activity area. So think Pilates, yoga, outdoor exercise, and of course, perfect areas for socializing. You'll also notice that the planting is a little bit lower on this side of the garden, and that's because it's designed to frame the views so that you can see all over Battersea Power Station. This part of the garden, once again, is just spectacular. Now, if you're not from London, you may be wondering who would want to live near a power station. Well, the power station was derelict but has been regenerated, so I got in a great glass elevator to go down and take a look. Battersea Power Station is a decommissioned coal-fired power station located on the south bank of the River Thames in Nine Elms, Battersea. The building comprises of two power stations built in two stages. The A power station was built between 1929 and 1935, whilst Battersea B power station to its east was built between 1937 and 1941. In the early 1980s, the building became decommissioned, and as you can see, it fell into disrepair and became derelict, until it was rescued in 2012. The site was purchased by some Malaysian owners who had real vision with the space. They wanted to create a recreational place full of retail, shops, bars, restaurants, a cinema, and even residential space. And here it is. You can find your favorite brands from Starbucks to Ray-Ban, also to Uniqlo. Shops for every price band. And not only that, they've also maintained the heritage of the building, so it even uses the original tiles on the walls. But you'll also see cranes that were there when this building was first made. In all honesty, it probably would have been easier to knock the building down, but they didn't. They kept it. They even remade the chimneys to make sure that they looked identical to when they were first built. The designers purposely made sure to not connect the floors to the walls so that when you walk in and look up, you can see the fact that you are in this power station. It is an incredible hub now where people come, drink, relax, and use the green space.
Now, if you haven't got tickets for the London Open Gardens to see the rooftop garden here, don't worry, because at the base of the power station there's around about 6 acres of green space. Let me tell you, it is absolutely exquisite.
I've just returned from China and Singapore studying urban green spaces, and this development would not look out of place in Singapore. I wanted to find out more about how this development came to be.
My name is Sarah Banham and I am Head of Community and Sustainability at Battersea Power Station.
My goodness, what a job you have. Talk us through your job role. What do you do?
Everything and anything, but sort of my principal roles are, I suppose you could sum it up as placemaking and making sure that the whole master plan that you see here is somewhere that people want to come to, engage with and relax, play, visit, just want to be here. It's all about what happens at ground floor level.
And so when you have that master plan, what's the starting point?
Vision.
I love that.
You have to think, what is this place going to be? So at the very beginning we had something called the Place Book, which is where we literally brainstormed ideas and got masses of experts to come and talk to us about what really creates a place in central London.
Wow, and what was the top placemaker for them?
Oh my gosh, the one that I can really remember, the manifesto point that came out of it was massive icon, intimate place, because intimate place is where people want to be, I think.
And I think that can really resonate because this is such an iconic building. I remember this as a child, so I am from Croydon, and there's always been so many plans of what to do with this place and it always kind of falls through. And so see it actually being used is a really, really nice feeling, because I think it's linked to all of our childhoods if we are from London.
Likewise, and for me, you know, it's really exciting when I come to work and I just see people, you know, they're coming to a shopping centre, some of them, but they're all taking photos of the building, or they're coming and sitting on the deck chairs and the grass, or they're coming and having a sandwich or a coffee on these benches, and they're all using the whole site in a very different but a very personal way.
Now, for a development, there's a lot of green in here. Is that intentional?
Totally. So with our landscape designers, part of that welcoming people in was the principle of biophilia, which is design which promotes health and well-being and connects people with nature as well. So you might have noticed all around the power station there's kind of a moat of grasses, lots of different varieties of grasses that rustle and blow and move in the wind, and you can hear them as well. And it just creates that sort of juxtaposition. So there's a design statement with a massive brick building, but then there's that nature and bringing people sort of more rooted and close to that.
And I think what I'm really happy to see here is that the green spaces are not just private. There's communal green spaces as well that are open to the general public. Sometimes in some developments that green space might be locked behind a barrier, but here anyone can come and visit this green space here.
Absolutely. So it's about having, you know, as I said, those closed spaces which is more intimate, but then we've got the huge power station park, which is sort of 6 acres of grass where we can sort of curate stuff over the year. So in the winter when it's a bit chilly, we have a huge great ice rink out there and families come and really enjoy it, and it sort of overlooks the river, so you've got that sense of space. And then in the summer, it's just full of deck chairs and you don't have to pay for them. And you can just come and chill and relax.
I said that was my biggest surprise of the whole day, is that those deck chairs were free.
Yes, good.
And then in terms of actually accessibility, I noticed there's a brand new tube station.
There is.
So
Yes.
when I used to live in Nine Elms, there was no tube station. So can you talk us through that process? How did you manage to get a tube station here?
Oh my gosh. Well, it was the brainstorm of a transport engineer, and we knew that we had to unlock accessible transport, not only at Battersea Power Station, but across the whole of Nine Elms. None of this area could be developed in the way it has been without people being able to come here and sort of come to the shops, but also to all the offices and homes that are being built across the area. So various studies were done. They looked at, cable cars across the Thames, shuttle trains straight into Victoria and things like that. And then someone said, right, there's this Victorian loop at Kennington, and you could extend the tube through from there. Who's going to pay for it? And they said, well, actually, because it unlocks all this development in Nine Elms, the developers can pay for it, and then through their funding, then also funding from the business rates of all the businesses that come here. So all of it was underwritten by the government, but it will all be paid back, so it's private funding.
That's incredible, because that must be some feat to get all of those people all together to agree to pay for this.
Yeah, but it unlocked this whole area. It's unlocked a piece of central London. I mean, we're only 2 miles away from the Houses of Parliament, so it was crucial and critical, and it's a brownfield site development. So this is where you need to really focus on intense building.
So that's incredible. So everyone was able to get on the same page, everyone had the same vision, everyone could see the potential, and everyone just worked together.
Yeah,
wow.
Absolutely.
Wow, we need some more
incredible.
of that. I think that's the second most incredible thing after those deck chairs.
Deck chairs.
Now, in terms of green spaces like this, bringing it back, I think that these kind of spaces are really, really important and really vital. What would you say to other developers to encourage them maybe to be brave and give this a go?
Oh, I'm totally. Green spaces are so vital. I mean, it's what makes this a successful destination as well, because people want to come and explore, but they don't want hard concrete. So I've already mentioned sort of wildlife. But we have a site ornithologist, and he's actually here primarily to give us advice on our peregrine falcons that we've got here. But he was down on Bank Holiday Monday, and in just over an hour he recorded 30 different species of birds on the site.
Wow, that's incredible.
So it's kind of, they wouldn't be here without this green.
Yeah.
The green is what, the bugs and the bees all thrive off as well. So it's that full cycle as well.
And I guess by opening up the river and connecting now down to Battersea Park, that gives even more access to green space, but
yes.
then also brings people here too. So in a way, you're also increasing your footfall.
Yeah, you've got that sort of flow along the river. I mean, the river is just such an amazing asset to have as well. And to make the most of that and that long river walk and thread through London that people can walk along. And it is quite green, most of it. And I think where you get those pockets like Battersea Park, Power Station Park here, where people can stop and dwell rather than keep going like you always do in London.
And then finally, what is next?
Next is our future. We've basically got almost the same area to build again on the other side of the power station.
Even more?
18 acres.
Wow.
So a huge area, which again will be mixed use. So new homes, new workspaces and offices, more shops. But we're sort of looking at different things that might be able to come in, more cultural uses, maybe educational uses, and lots of green.
And that was going to be my last question.
And
is there going to
of
be any green in there?
Yes.
Wow, okay. And what's the timescales?
Oh, so it'll take at least another 10 years.
Okay. Well,
You don't do these things quickly.
well, I'll see you in 10 years' time. Thank you so
please.
much for your time.
Not at all.
I'll leave a link below in the description box so that you can get your tickets for the London Open Gardens. I hope you've enjoyed seeing the roof garden, but also seeing the grounds here at Battersea Power Station. I think this is an excellent example of urban greening done well, and I would love to see spaces like this in our towns and cities all over the UK. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me today, and hopefully I will see you all again very, very soon.